Good morning, Texas. Taxation is theft. And Terry Meza, one of the legislators for the state of Texas, wants to pass a new law that would eliminate the castle doctrine because she says when somebody breaks into your home in the middle of the night, you should exhaust all resources before using violence against them. Basically, you shouldn't kill home intruders until you've tried everything else, including fleeing your own home. She says things like, obviously the person breaking into your house needs your stuff more than you do. Yep. Now, this is interesting, right? Because I'm always speaking out against police violence, right? Somebody steals a candy bar from a store, that's not worth the death penalty for the police to come along and shoot them. Well, the police's job is not to really defend anybody's property so much as it is to capture people who have committed crimes and violated property and take them to court so they can be sued, criminally or civilly. However, it is the responsibility of a property owner to defend their own property, whether it's a store or a home. So if somebody robs a store and they get shot by the owner, I wouldn't feel so bad as if they were shot by a cop who came to arrest them and they were unarmed. And the reason is this. This threat is a deterrent. There's a show called Atlanta, and they talked about this in that show, where this guy went into a shoe store and he tried on some shoes, and he was telling his friend, yeah, they have a no chase policy. So basically you can put on the shoes and walk right out, and they're not allowed to chase you. They have to call the police, and by the time the police show up, you're gone. This is a real thing. You can look it up. And in fact, in some states, actually, I don't know if it was a state law or if it was a chain policy, but there was a chain of stores that had this policy, and they couldn't chase people who were stealing from their store. And guess what happened? People found out about it, and everyone would steal from these stores. So much so that they had to hire police to protect their stores. So now you're paying extra people to work around the clock to prevent something from happening, when you could have just let the owner arm themselves or give them a chase policy. So if you tell people, if you tell criminals, and this is, some stores, I guess, try to keep this quiet if they have that policy. But if you make this law, it is public. It is public that if you break into anybody's house, they can't kill you. They can't point a gun at you. Now, it's already illegal to fire a warning shot, so that's out of the question. So if you shoot, you better hit them, or else you could go to jail for having someone break into your house. This is absolutely insane. Now, I don't like the idea of someone getting shot over breaking into someone's house to steal a TV. I think that's stupid. But that's not the homeowner's fault. The person breaking into the house has a responsibility for their own actions. They could have not broken into the house. Now, I know I've talked about certain examples before where you're hiking through the woods and there's a house and you're going to die in a snowstorm if you don't get into the house. I don't recommend just kicking the door in or picking the lock and quietly sneaking in. You obviously want to knock first and announce yourself if that's what the situation is. You should know if you go into a house and there's somebody there, there's a potential that they could be armed and they might kill you. Imagine if Steve Irwin was killed by a stingray. Sorry to laugh, that's not funny. Do we want to criminalize the stingray for attacking Steve Irwin? Does that make any sense? He was defending himself, as far as he knew. And Steve Irwin knew all of the risks he took dealing with all these dangerous animals. He knew the risks. And if he were still alive, I don't think he would sit there saying, oh, that stingray tried to kill me. It needs to be put to death, even though I was picking it up and harassing it in its own home. I don't think he would say that. Yeah, I know that's different, but we gotta look kind of what we're doing here. There's a lot of people who will go around saying, there's a lot of religious type people who will say, don't do something or you're going to go to hell. And so they don't do certain things because they're afraid to go to hell. Now, you can argue whether or not hell is real, but the fact of the matter is there are people who don't do certain things because they're afraid of hell. There are certain people who don't break into houses because they're afraid of the consequences. There are many more people who don't break into houses because they know it's wrong, but there are people who don't break into houses because they're afraid of the consequences. And you don't know, if somebody breaks into your house in the middle of the night, do you know if they have a gun? Do you really want to spend a few minutes asking them, do you have a gun? Turn around, put your hands up so I can pat you down. Why aren't you turning around? Turn around, turn around. I can't shoot you until I see a gun. Really? Does that make any sense? Because that's exposing you, if they do have a weapon, for them to kill you. This is on top of that, this is including, what if this is in the middle of the night and you're half awake? And you're not thinking that straight because you were just woken up in the middle of the night by somebody breaking into your house. None of this makes any sense to say that you should not be able to defend your home. Now, this legislator, why doesn't she create rules like this for the police? For example, if I broke into a police station and they killed me, would they face criminal prosecution? Or would they say, well, he was breaking in, we didn't know if he was armed? You know, the same old rhetoric. There would be no criminal prosecution for them. But yet you want to make it illegal for us to defend our homes. Now, these are police, by the way, who are supposed to be trained to handle situations like this. Police at a police station who were not woken up in the middle of the night. And if I kick in their door and I say, I'm just here for the TV, don't hurt me, they should flee. They should not attempt to point a gun at me and tell me to leave. Why should they live under separate rules? Okay, well, this is the police. These are the law enforcers. Okay, let's take a different example. What about a bank? Should banks be forced to get rid of their armed security? Don't you think that might increase the incidence of bank robberies, or at least attempted bank robberies? If people know they can walk into a bank and take whatever they want and run away without being shot at, because that's what you're telling people they should do in their own homes. And you can say, oh yeah, these people shouldn't take the law into their own hands. first of all, why not? Because the police aren't going to do anything. Oh, she mentioned, well, your homeowner's insurance will cover whatever they steal. Not everybody has homeowner's insurance. Especially if you live in an apartment. Even fewer people have apartment insurance. If you own a home and it's on a mortgage, then yeah, you probably have insurance because the bank requires it. But if you've paid off your home, or if you live in a rental unit, you probably don't have insurance. I shouldn't say probably, you might not. Or you might not have insurance that covers theft. Maybe it only covers floods and fire. Because you count on your trusty pistol to keep you and your property safe, so you don't need to pay that extra money for insurance. That's something people do. She wants to completely disarm us so that our only option is to call the police. Now, don't get me wrong. I honestly, I can see it. I can see feeling bad for somebody who got killed, who was just breaking into a house because his friend dared him to go steal a TV. I can feel sorry for him. I can feel sorry for Steve Irwin. That doesn't change the fact that he took responsibility for his own life. If you break into a house in Texas, or any other state, anywhere in the world, really, the way it should be, you break into somebody's house, expect to lose your life. Now they can say, oh, well, it's not worth somebody's life to protect your TV. Well, then it's not worth your life to break in and steal a TV. This is absolutely insane. This is a legislator in Texas who wants to do this. Do they really care about us? Or do they really just, care about the stories that make the news? Is the news controlling all this? I mean, I've seen this happen before. Crying families on TV. Oh my God, he was just breaking into their house to steal a TV. They didn't need to kill him. And I feel sad for that family. I do. Because every family looks at every person in their, every kid in their family. Oh, he's a good kid. Oh, yeah, he did a couple things wrong, but he's a good kid. Yeah. Okay. But there are consequences for your actions, even if you make a few mistakes. And those consequences usually serve as a warning for other people who are thinking about doing the same thing. I've talked about this story a million times. I had a friend way back who was into stealing small things, and he would always get arrested, but his mom was a cop, so he always got away with it. Never spent more than a couple days in jail. And we're talking about, when I knew him, he was shoplifting from grocery stores. After that, he started breaking into commercial buildings and stealing equipment, office equipment, stuff like that. He even stole a car once and got arrested for stealing a car while the owner was sleeping in the back seat. I don't know how that happened, but he got arrested and charged with grand theft auto, and they let him go because his mom was a cop. Well, he got used to not facing any consequences for his actions, and he set his own example. And years later, he broke into somebody's house. There was no owner there to point a gun at him. There was a daughter of an owner who was, I think, 8 years old. Or maybe she was 12 or 13, I don't remember. She got kidnapped. She got raped. She got left in a ditch with no clothes. They found her a week later, and this guy finally went to jail, and he's in prison now. Imagine if that girl had a gun to protect herself. And I know people are saying, oh my God, a little girl, a little 8 or 12-year-old, whatever she was. It's happened before. I've seen, I think it was maybe a 13 or 14-year-old boy. Yeah, it's a little bit older. 13 or 14-year-old boy chased off home intruders with an AR-15. I don't even know if he had to fire. Just the fact that he showed it to him was enough to chase him off. This stuff happens. There are people who train their kids how to safely use these weapons. It's not fantasy. As much as that idea is alien to us because, we don't hear it on the news. We have the government coming to our schools telling us not to play with guns, not to touch guns. Guns are evil. They can go off even if they're not loaded. Yes, that's the kind of crap they told me when I was a kid. We're setting an example. We're allowing them to set examples where, hey, I broke into this guy's house because I know he can't shoot at me now. And then what happens when somebody does shoot after this law is passed? Oh, well, the guy got away, the guy was stealing his TV. He didn't get away because he was shot, but because he was shot, the homeowner is now going to jail. And because the criminal who broke into the house was shot and didn't get away with anything, and he doesn't serve any time. Meanwhile, the homeowner, for using quote-unquote deadly force to protect his home, is going to spend the rest of his life in jail. Really? Come on now. Taxation is theft. That's bullshit.